All right. Well, happy Friday, everybody. It's the end of the week. Feels a little bit different when we're all in lockdown like this, but it's still Friday and the weekend is ahead. I was trying to explain that to my kids this morning, that tomorrow was Saturday, and there wasn't too much of a response since everything is about the same nowadays. But it is Friday, and we're excited to be with you all for the last day of our first week of the Songs of Hope conference. I've had some awesome speakers. I've just loved hearing from everyone this week. Enjoyed our conversations yesterday, and got some great speakers here today. So today we have Mecca Johnson, who some of you know is down in the warm state of Texas, and she's going to be presenting for 12 o'clock, and then at 1 o'clock we'll have Jacqueline Lyons, who's going to be joining us as well. And don't forget, next week we've got another full week of content for you. So tune in again next week on Monday for some great speakers like Derek Kayongo and Dinesh and many other great, wonderful speakers that are going to be talking about some really fun topics. So I'd like to introduce Mecca to everybody here. I've known Mecca for about the last year, and wonderful, joyful personality. I'm looking forward to her talk today. Mecca Johnson brings to her sessions more than 25 years of experience in the field of early childhood ed. She was a teacher and director prior to becoming a member of the Primrose School Franchising Company's corporate team. There, before her retirement in 2018, she served over a span of 19 years in several value-rich positions of increasing responsibilities: consulting, acting franchise owner for the corporate school, director and executive director of training and development. In her role, she supported the exponential development and growth of the company. Her instinctive abilities to connect with individuals from all walks of life bring joy and laughter to any situation, and develop trusted relationships provides a rare combination of invaluable gifts that have served her well. Now those gifts highlight her current career as a dynamic speaker and communicator, consultant, and effective trainer. Mecca holds a BA in English, teacher certification, professional learning and presentation, and is a certified John Maxwell trainer and speaker. So welcome, Mecca. So excited to have you with us today. I love the hat, very cool.
Well, listen, I wore my hat on purpose because it says, I'm too blessed to be stressed. And we can't have hope if we're stressed. So I thought this is an appropriate hat. So
Absolutely.
So do I just take it away, Chris?
You can take it away. I'm going to mute myself and turn my video, and it's all yours.
Okay, well, good. I'm just so glad to meet all of you and spend the next little bit of time with you. And I'm going to share my screen here. Start sharing. Okay, so I need to do one more thing. Just tap this so not everything I say is appearing. And I'm going to shift positions here for just a minute, if I can. And so this is pretty neat that I'm able to stay live with you and also speak to you from the great state of Texas. Listen, I hope you like my little picture there. This is bluebonnet time in Texas, and my husband informed me that this was not a real picture, and I was really shattered, but I thought, well, I'm going to pretend that it is. And I love this picture, and I love this time of year, and I'm excited to talk to really some of the very best people in the world. I have such a heart and passion for teachers and for all of us who are working with children on a daily basis during the most formative years of their life. I mean, in the time that we have them on a daily basis, I mean, they're learning everything that they're going to need for life. I mean, you've seen the the book that says everything I ever needed to know I learned in kindergarten. Well, it's really not true. Everything we need to know for life, it begins at birth. And in our industry, we have these children more waking hours than their parents do. Of course, we never tell their parents that, but if we're earnest and serious about what we do, then we remember that we have them, sometimes 10 hours a day, and we're shaping their lives, and we're making sure they know how to trust and to share and to forgive and to love one another and to be a friend. All of those things they're learning from us. So for us to be together and talk today about hope, when Chris asked me if I would speak on the subject of hope, and noticing the songs of hope and the Hope Conference, I mean, that is a really powerful word. I don't know how many of you've ever really thought about hope and what it means. We use the word a lot. I hope I get to go, or I hope it doesn't rain tomorrow, or I hope this or hope that. And we use it so often that it really might lose its importance and what it really means. And so I want us to really look at what hope means. And I looked it up, and of course you can get all kinds of information from the internet. And I loved some of the things I read about it. Hope is a feeling of desire and of expectation of something good. Hope is something you really, really want and you need. Now that "and you need" I thought was interesting, because sometimes I hope for things that I don't really need, I just want them. Hope is the expected promise of a better day. Now, this might seem, I don't know what age groups we have on this webinar or Zoom call, but I would imagine it's kind of all age groups. And I have the rare privilege of caring for my mother, and she is 96 years old. And she still has a wonderful hope and expectation about each day. And there's just a little song that we sing to each other. I don't know if as children you ever sang rounds where you sing the first part and then someone else sings the second part. But every day in the morning, I will sing with her, and the tune is, this is a brand new day. This is a brand new day. This is a brand new day. We will rejoice and be glad in it. This is a brand new day. Now, if you start out like that, and you start with a smile, and you start with a hope and an expectation, it's very hard, and you keep that mindset, it's very hard for you not to accomplish some good things that day. So I want to talk to you guys about what hope is, what its benefits are, what we can expect from it, and why it's so, so important that we search after it, that we find it, that we keep it, that we use it on an hour-by-hour basis in our lives. So there was a fourth definition of hope that I loved the most. Hope is a joyful and contented expectation of something good. Now, I'm all about looking up the exact meaning of words. And so I looked up a joyful and contented expectation. So joyful, and some of you may even be looking it up on your phones, but joyful means great pleasure and happiness. And contented, I loved this, a satisfied peace. Now, isn't that amazing? Hope is looking forward to things with great pleasure and happiness, and a contented or a satisfied and peaceful expectation of something good. Now, it doesn't say anything about what our circumstances are, and all of us are in some really, unique, some of us dire, if you look at it from the world's perspective, which is where we are. Some of us not so dire, but all of us in a very different and unusual situation. And that is why hope is so important. And this is what I want you to know about hope, that it is your choice 100% whether or not you have it. It is your choice 100% whether or not you have hope. Now that is powerful. We don't have much control over many things in our lives, even though we think we do, and we wear ourselves out trying to control it. We don't have control over very much in our lives, but our choice to have hope is absolutely our choice. And so I wanted to talk to you this morning about the 10 essential choices that we have to make to remain hopeful. And this is Dr. Robert Jeffress. I listen to him often and just thought this was so powerful. I've adjusted a little bit, but I wanted to give him the credit for even coming up with the thought of how important it is to have hope. So let's talk about this just for a minute. And I will leave this up long enough for you to make notes if you would like to. But we have to choose, if we're going to think about this, if we're going to approach every day and be able to rejoice or have joy in it, then we're going to have to make some purposeful choices. We have got to choose purpose over aimlessness. And I'll tell you, when you're taken out of your normal routine and you're not up at a certain time and you're not dressed for a certain thing every day and you're not expected to be anywhere, and you just, everything is, especially if you are the kind of person that has to have a plan. And all of a sudden our opportunity for plans have been yanked away from us. And so we have to make the choice. Today, I'm going to keep my routine. And listen, let me share with you that saying every bit of this, I'm saying it back to myself. But these are the things that will help us to have hope, a joyful and contented expectation for the day. Don't be aimless in your day. Have very specific goals that you want to choose. Have a specific bedtime, have a specific wake up time, have a specific time for time in the morning to meditate, to get ready, to prepare ourselves. And I often say when I talk to people in our industry that children do not care if you have a bad hair day, but they care if you have a bad heart day. And so do we purpose in the morning to spend time preparing our hearts for the day? And that needs to be part of your purpose, that you prepare your heart and your mind for what you're going to do that day, so that at the end of the day, you can look at back at the day and say, this is what I accomplished, this is good. And then you can go to bed at rest with a contentment and a peace and joyful expectation for what you're going to accomplish the next day. We have to choose perseverance over defeat. If we were to all give testimony to the times that we've been defeated, we could not, if we spent the rest of our lives, we wouldn't have time to write it all down, right? I mean, there's defeat over something on a daily basis. But the people who are joyful and the people who have hope realize that you just get back up. That you just get back up on that horse and it happens. All of our great inventors failed so many times before they finally invented the light bulb, or before they finally invented electricity, or before they finally were elected president. If you look back at Abraham Lincoln, he was defeated in so many of his tries to get into office before he was elected president. And so I think when we yield to defeat, there's a hopelessness that comes in because we have lost something from what we're able to do while we're living. I read a quote just recently. It said, death is not as tragic as the death of something within us while we're alive. And so I thought, if we don't persevere and we don't choose that over being defeated about something, we actually allow some hope to die in our hearts, and we cannot do that. Repentance over guilt. Repentance sometimes can be looked at as a religious term, but it really doesn't have to be. Repentance is being sorry for something. Repentance is saying, look, I should not have done that, and I'm not going to do it again. And so it's important that in order to have a victory over guilt that we have in our lives, that we have to forgive ourselves and that we have to forgive other people. And so, but we can't do that until we admit that we've done something. And so we need to recognize, is there something that's gnawing at me that I'm constantly guilty about? Let me get that right so that I can move on to the joyful and the hopeful part of what I want to do with my life. Relaxation over stress. Listen, there is a medical, there are medical statistics, and we all know this, that pressure is good for us. It helps us to be better. It helps us to grow. It helps us to be molded into something that we want to be proud of. We're under pressure to get something done, and that's okay. But if we allow that to move into stress, you can be joyful under pressure. I've got a deadline. I've been working hard on it. I cannot wait. I'm pressured to get this done, but I'm going to make it happen. Or you can be so stressed out that it actually affects your blood pressure. It affects your heart. It affects your mind. It affects everything about you, and it actually can make you sick. And so you want to purposefully choose when you feel that coming on. Listen, take 10 minutes. Say, I've got to get back into my hopeful stance. I've got to get back into the pressure part of this that's going to make me better and help me move forward and move away from this stress that is overwhelming me and actually causing me to shut down. That's a choice, guys. All of these are our choices. And then there's contentment over comparison. Contentment, that, remember in that definition of joy, it meant a satisfied peace. How many of us are thankful enough that we can be satisfied with where we are right now? Now, it would be very easy to stop and think about all the things that are not right. But people who operate in hope dwell on the things that are right, that you're evidently pretty healthy today, or you wouldn't be on this call. I'm assuming many of you have your eyesight. Many of you are able to walk. I hope all of us had a warm place to sleep last night. I hope all of us had something for breakfast this morning. I hope all of us have someone in our lives that cares whether we're there or not. And I mean, and even if you don't have some of those, you've got something to be thankful for. And so if we live in a state of comparison, we are never content, because somebody is always going to have more than we do. Do you know that somebody's probably jealous of you? Somebody probably wishes they had what you have. And so this is so important that we choose to be thankful and joyful over where we are right now, because in this unusual circumstance and in this scary circumstance that we're in, we can be content about something. And when we will actually give contentment the whole of our heart and move all the things that are worrying us aside and put them over in that stress bucket and put a lid on it, and don't compare ourselves to anyone else, we can have that joy. We can have a hope for a better tomorrow. I think God was really good to give us days, don't you? Every day we wake up, it's a new beginning. And then we choose forgiveness over bitterness. I mentioned that just a little bit before when we were talking about repentance over guilt. But forgiveness over bitterness, listen, when things happen to us, you could be bitter right now about anything having to do with the COVID virus. You could be bitter about how people around you have handled it, or you could be mad or angry, all those things. But here's what happens. Everything that happens to us either causes us to be better or bitter. It's our choice. What do we do with that circumstance? Do we choose to learn from it and say, you know what? I see this happening. I'm going to make sure that I respond differently the next time. And I'm going to forgive myself for that, or I will forgive somebody else for that. Because let me tell you, my father-in-law said one time that bitterness is you taking poison and waiting for someone else to die from it. It's not impacting them. You're the only one that's hurting. And so we need to choose to forgive ourselves, to forgive others for our sakes, so that we can move forward with what? With that joyful and contented expectation of what's going to happen today, with a happy, peaceful satisfaction. And we need to choose productivity over slothfulness. Now, I want to tell you something. I'll be very vulnerable with you. This time, away from our normal routines, it has been very easy for me to choose slothfulness. And to me, slothfulness, as you know, I went for, a day and didn't get out of my pajamas. Well, there's actually proof that when you're working at home, if you will get up and get dressed, and I'm speaking to myself now, and put on your makeup and put on your cute hat or fix your hair, get dressed, that you actually do have a better day. You accomplish more. And you're proud of yourself at the end of the day. It's easier to have purpose over aimlessness if you will not be slothful. So choose to be productive. Okay, I've got a purpose today. I'm going to be productive. And then you don't let any of these other things, any guilt or feeling of stress or defeat or feeling like you don't have what other people have. You've moved all of that out, gotten it out of your space, and you're choosing to be productive. And then the other thing I love, and sometimes, it's good to have pride. It is good. We want to have pride in what we do so that we do a good job, and that when our final product is said and done, that people can tell we worked on it. It doesn't mean that it was necessarily the best or it was perfect or anything, but we did our best. And so it's important for us to have pride in what we do, but it's important for us to approach life with a state of humility. And humility is, to me, one word: teachable. Don't be a know-it-all. Learn from every single situation, whether you like the situation, whether you believe it was fair, whether you think what anyone else did was right and you were absolutely right, they were absolutely wrong, and it's the truth. Humility says, I couldn't necessarily control that. I don't believe that the choice was right. I don't believe that it was fair, but here's what I do believe. I can learn something from what just happened, and it will cause me to be better, to do a better job the next time. And it will also teach me not to respond the way that that person necessarily responded. Humility is being teachable in every single way, every day. Approach every circumstance as if it's a brand new situation. What can I learn from this? That is a joyful expectation. That is a hope. In this struggle and in this situation, I'm going to learn something from this. And then don't get lonely. We are created for relationship. We are not created to be alone. And it's easy, especially if we're single, if we're at home, we don't have constant communication with close family, and you're just talking sometimes in text. We have all gotten in a habit as a society of using our thumbs more than using our voice and our facial expressions, and even sometimes our heart, because we're just, our communication is only 7% words. And when we just text all the time, we're just getting through about 7% of what we could get through if we would talk to one another. So don't get lonely. That's a place of despair when you allow yourself to get lonely. Don't do that. And so we make these really important choices. And I want to share with you some strategies that will help you make these kind of choices. And I want to I'm going to stop for just maybe 30 seconds. And I would like for you to make a note of which one of these, or maybe all of them, I will choose. Maybe choose the top three. And write this down. I will choose, whether it's humility over pride. I will choose purpose over aimlessness. I will choose perseverance over defeat. I'm not going to be defeated. And make yourself 3 statements. Write it down. I will. And then say what you're going to do. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to choose at least 3 of those. Okay. So here are some great steps to take, or keys to being able to make the choices we just talked about. Purpose over aimlessness, perseverance over defeat. I'm not going to be defeated. I'm going to get back up. I'm going to do this again. I don't care how many times it takes. I'm going to do this. And when you do that, you actually have a great inner voice as well. We'll talk about that in a minute. But keys to changing your attitude so that you can make these essential choices to have hope. You really, really need to guard your mind. We have so much input coming at us, guys. In the 1970s, I read that we had about 500 commercials and advertisements and messages coming at us in a day. And now it's over 5,500. And all of them are very intentional. I shopped at Best Buy one evening to buy something for presentations and for the computer, and trying to just do a better job all the time of what I try to do. By the time I got home and I opened up my computer and I went to Facebook, there was an ad on the side for Best Buy. We are targeted. I'm pretty sure there's not much private anymore, so do be careful what you put online and what you say and those kind of things, where it can be recorded. But I will tell you that everything is targeted to us. Agencies spend thousands and thousands and millions and probably billions of dollars every year trying to figure out where our weaknesses are, what we need, how they can tantalize us into buying something else. And if we do that, if we give into that and we're not careful about input, if we're not careful about the power that social media and advertisements have over our lives, it will be very difficult for us to choose contentment over comparison. And I have several videos I wish I had time to show that just showed you that all the beauty that you see in magazines and on billboards and everywhere is not real. So much of it is photoshopped, and yet we're holding it up and we're comparing ourselves, and men do this as well. I think women may do it more and men tend to do it as well. But, you know, there are statistics that say that women in the United States spend over $300,000 in their lifetime just on outward beauty products. But it was interesting, the article that said, except for in Montana and Utah. I thought that was interesting. But my focus here is, it's okay. No, you should be able to control what you look at, what you see. We can't help what we see and what we hear the first time, but we can help dwelling on it. And so you're going to have to choose purpose over aimlessness. Don't just get on social media and start looking at everything, because whether you know it or not, it is putting images in your mind of what beauty is, of what acceptance is, of what's okay. And if we succumb to that, it's impossible for us to be content. And so you've got to know who you are, Know what your goals are. Know what your purpose is. Know what you want to persevere to do. Know that you're going to have faith instead of worry. And know that you're not going to live in guilt and stress and comparing yourself to anyone else, that you're going to live with who you are and the gifts that you are given. And you're going to identify those before this day is over. What am I really good at? And you're going to focus on those. You're going to guard your mind, and you're only going to dwell on the things that are good and pure and lovely and worthy to talk about. That's what you're going to think about, because your thoughts actually set the course for your life, and they inform who we become. And our thoughts affect our physical health. We can think ourselves sick. And there's actually science that we can think ourselves sometimes well. It controls our emotions. I mean, getting up and not determining that you're going to have joy for that day, and have a hope and have a great expectation and live with contentment with where you are right now, will keep you from having joy and will keep you from being happy. It will cause you to be defeated. It will be impossible for you to have hope. What we think about, what we dwell on, establishes our emotions. And yes, I know there's some chemical things going on sometime, and that we do need medication. I mean, we need a medication for our minds, just like in our brains, just like we need it for our bodies. But so much of it could be changed by the way we think and the choices that we make. I had a friend of mine who's a psychiatrist tell me that he had never one time had anyone in his office, unless it was a medical situation, who was depressed that exercised on a regular basis. Now, isn't that something? And so we can make these choices to exercise, to make healthy choices that actually affect our emotions. And in turn, if we are hopeful, we have better behavior and better relationships with others. If we are depressed and down and comparing ourselves to someone else and in the mully grubs and defeated, we are not what we need to be in order to help one another at work, to be a team member, to be a better spouse or mate, to be a better mother, father, a better sibling, a better daughter, son. Everything is affected by what we choose to dwell on in our hearts and minds. And by the way, it's a choice, but guard your input. Guard your input. What do you dwell on? What do you read and stay reading and look at? What do you think about? What do you hear and keep hearing and dwell on, and just let it become this mantra in your mind? Be careful with your inner voice here. Your inner voice, I want you to remember that your mind believes anything that you tell it. Anything we tell ourselves, our mind will believe. And it's the one time, most of the time, everybody says, listen, you need to stop talking and listen, right? We all need to be better listeners. This is the one time I would tell you, when you notice that your mind is talking down to you. Sometimes we say things to ourselves we would never say to anyone else. When that starts, you need to purposefully say, stop talking and listen. And then out loud, if you need to, I am healthy. I have a job. I have a heart for children. I am compassionate. I am a friend. And you start naming all the things that give you the power to make choices of purpose and perseverance and faith and repentance and relaxation and contentment and forgiveness and productivity and companionship. If you don't do that, you won't have that ability, and hope is lost. And when hope is lost, there's an old proverb that said, hope deferred makes the heart sick. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever been heart sick, but there's nothing like it. I've been heart sick, and I want to get over it really fast. And I want to find out what caused me to be heart sick. And I don't want to go there again. It's harder than physical, because you can't touch it. You don't know. There's nothing that you can grab a hold of and hug, but it can make your heart sick when hope is deferred. And we want to stay alive with hope. It's what gives us joy. Make the right choices. That's your decision. But you have the strength or you're disabled, depending on what choices you made. As we talked about those 10 essential choices, those are key. You've got to go back and look at those, study them. And so that as you're doing this on a daily basis, when something comes up, and this is more like things that you're not prepared for. But I tell you that if you don't have a foundation of preparing for purpose and preparing to choose and make good choices, then when something comes up that you have to make the right choice on the spur of the moment, whether it involves your character or it involves your work ethic or it involves a choice that you have to make in the whole realm of your job that day, you will not make as good a choice or as quickly or as confidently as you would if you had these purposeful things in your life. If you'd already made these other essential choices and forgiven yourself when you messed up, and guarded your mind and all those things. Listen, you're not perfect. You're never going to be able to do all this every day, all the time, but it's a wonderful goal and it's something to look forward to and it's something to plan for. And it keeps you from being aimless, and it also prepares you to make right choices when you don't have time really to decide what is right here. You have to go with the gut, and your gut has been fed and informed with right choices along the way. Do not depend on how you feel about something to determine your actions. Let me say that again. Do not depend on how you feel about something to determine your actions. Listen, our attitudes and our actions are the cause, and they are the result. Now think about that. They are the cause and they are the result of our behavior. How we think determines how we act. Our right actions produce right attitudes. And so if you wait until you feel like having a good attitude, or you wait until you feel like making right choices, you're not going to do it. Because I don't know about you, but my feelings change from hour to hour sometimes, depending on what's happened. My feelings at the beginning of the morning, if I've not had a good night's sleep, are not nearly as good as they are after I get a little quick power nap. My feelings, especially in this industry, so much can happen during the day that you weren't necessarily preparing for that day. You're preparing for life, and so you're able to handle it because you're someone who makes right choices, and you realize every new day is a new day, and you live with hope. And so you can depend on yourself to make some good choices. But if you depend on your feelings at the time as to how you're going to choose whether or not to do the right thing or to have confidence, then you're in trouble, because your feelings are not stable. They're wishy-washy. Emotions are really difficult to control sometimes. And so we have to make the choice to act whether we feel like it or not. And boy, that is huge to me. I am saying that to myself right now. Mecca, you need to make the choice to act whether you feel like it or not. And you need to say your name in front of that and actually make some commitments so that you have hope and it's not so hard to grasp. See the good in all situations. Have you named any good that's come out of this COVID-19 that the whole world is going through? I have. I think in some ways we've been healed from a disease we didn't know we had. You see families spending time together. You see parents teaching children. You see people at the supper table, and there's more to talk about than there has been before because we've been together more. Oh yeah, we see all the jokes about how much more we're going to appreciate teachers. And that's a good thing. That's a big thing. Listen, those parents might not be nearly as hard on teachers anymore after they send their children back to school and realize, you know what, my kid can be a little jerk. I need to make him behave and not blame it on the teacher. There's a lot of good things that might have come out of this. And I'm talking about more than elementary level right now. And if you say I said that children can be a jerk, then I'll just say you're not telling the truth. but you know what I mean. I mean, they can make some really bad choices, and they can misbehave, and they can make adults today miserable. It's the choices that we make, how to handle that matter. But in this situation, the good in all of it is that I believe we've reconnected personally with people that we love. We've slowed down because we've had to. And there's some joy in that. They say that the river or that the water in Venice, in the canal, is pure. In San Antonio, there's a famous river walk, and it is clear. It has not been clear in years because people around throwing things in it, all those kinds of things. But it seems like nature is a little bit brighter. And so there's some good things that have happened. We can find the good in every single situation. It's possible. And then we need to give others the benefit of the doubt. No matter what happens, don't assume they meant to hurt your feelings. Don't assume they did that just to make you mad. Don't assume that they're a bad person. Give them the benefit of the doubt. There's no telling what she went through this morning. I don't know what he has on his heart. I don't think he meant to say it that way. I'm going to assume there was no intent to hurt my feelings. It's not about me. Let me do what I can to help that person have a better day. It will change your heart if you make an assumption to assume the best of others. And I want to share this video with you just before we close. And this is a video, you can look it up on YouTube. It goes pretty quickly, by Brian Dwyer. And I would encourage you to look at it again. But this is our choice. Are we victorious? Do we have purpose and perseverance and faith, repentance, relaxation and contentment, forgiveness, productivity, humility? Are we teachable all the time? Companionship? If we choose those things, we're victors. If we don't, we are victims. And victims operate in the world that everybody and everything owes them something, instead of that they're here to contribute. Watch this really quickly.
Hi, Mecca. You might need to take out your earphones for them to hear the video, or unplug the.
Can we start it again?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Hey guys, in this video, we're going to talk about the difference between a victim mentality and a victor mentality. See, here's the thing. You can't control what happens to you in life, but you can control whether you receive it as a victim or a victor, and that's what we're going to talk about in this video. Let's just kind of map this out. A victim mentality says, look what you did to me, and a victor mentality says, look what I did for myself. A victim mentality desires comforting lies, and a victor mentality desires unpleasant truth. A victim mentality says, I can't succeed because everyone is against me. But a victor mentality says, I will succeed even if the entire world is against me. A victim mentality looks outward, and a victor mentality looks inward. A victim finds an excuse. A victor finds a way. A victim mentality makes you defensive and discouraged, and a victor mentality helps to get you motivated and makes you want to get to work. A victim mentality accepts human nature, and a victor mentality fights human nature. A victim mentality makes you think you're getting attacked, and a victor mentality makes you think you're getting pushed to greater things. A victim says, just leave me alone. And a victor says, keep making me better. And for a victim mentality, the outside influence is strongest. While for the victor mentality, the internal influence is what really matters. Listen, guys, it's your choice. You can either be a victim or a victor in life. You can't control what happens to you, but you can control your response to it.
So I want to just kind of wrap this up and say to you that hope can give us courage and strength and boldness instead of fear. Hope can provide endurance and patience instead of tempting us to quit. Hope can offer confidence in the face of doubt. Hope can motivate us to get up and seize the day and not just go through the motions with no expectations of change. Hope can keep us positive in oftentimes a really negative world. And remember, it's important to control our minds at all times, but it's especially important during these seasons of uncertainty and hardship and change. We have to maintain an attitude of hope, an expectation of good things to come. Do you know the benefits of hope include peace and joy in the very center of turmoil and hardship? I want to ask you this question. Are you anticipating great things, new things for this day, or are you living in fear? Whatever you are anticipating will change the trajectory of your life. And my purpose today was to make the case for hope. And I've hoped that I've done that. Thank you so much for your time. And if there are any questions or any comments that you would like to make, Chris, I think you said there would be, 10 or 15 minutes for that.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much, Mecca. That was awesome. I love that. Thanks for being vulnerable and sharing. It was a really powerful message. There's a lot there. I think something that I really resonated with was that last part, that video. Something that I really enjoy. There's a quote from Theodore Roosevelt who talked about the man in the arena and how sometimes we stand alone where everything's coming. And we have, I think I like football, and you might know the term of, Monday morning quarterback, of someone that's watching the game and then makes all the comments about what happened and what should have happened better, and complaints about how someone acted. But it's the person that's standing in the midst of it that is going through the trial and the difficulty, and it's our choice. Do we accept the criticism that often comes? Do we accept the hardship or the sometimes defeat that's placed at our feet? Or do we stand up as the person that's in the arena, that's fighting the battle, and internalize that ourselves as we get to make the choice of what we receive and what we don't receive? So thank you so much for that message. I think we had a couple questions in here as we were going. I have some of my own here for you as well. Let's see if I can find some of these. A lot of great comments here. Here we go. How do we deal with our own mind once we can sabotage? Well, let me rephrase that. How do we deal with our own mind knowing that we can sabotage ourselves?
So I think when we were talking about guarding our minds, we're in charge of the input. So whatever we think, we have gotten that idea from something, right? I mean, we've seen something or we've heard something and we didn't let it go. We dwelled on it. And so this is one of the most difficult things, which is, and our minds, listen, it's a powerful, science calls it a powerful gland, the most powerful gland in our body. And whatever we feed it is what grows in our minds and in our hearts. So what do you feed on? What do you read every day? What do you listen to every day? What are your choices about what goes into your mind? Because whatever you put in your mind is what controls what comes out. So you're going to have to make purposeful choices. And a lot of times, if we are sabotaging ourselves, or if we're having bad conversations or talking down to ourselves, a lot of times it's over things that have been said to us before, the way people have made us feel before, you know, Angela Maya said that we never forget. We can forget what people say and do, but we never forget how they made us feel. And so I may have said that lady's name wrong. I think you knew what I was talking about, though. And so how do we make one another feel? And that's important. And if someone makes you feel bad or feel like you're not enough, it is your choice to accept that, or you stop listening and talk, like I said, and said, you know what? I am enough. I am enough just like I am. Can I be better? Probably. So I'm going to make some choices to be better, but I am enough. This is how I was made. This is where I am in life. I'm going to grow. I'm going to plant. I'm going to put some dirty soil on it. I'm going to do whatever I need to do. But listen, whatever you feed that soil, whatever you put around that, that's what's going to grow. So you've got to determine, you've got to make a choice. What you're going to listen to, dwell on, read, talk about, think about, that's your choice. And you're going to have to make the right choice in order to have the right outcome. And maybe you take one thing at a time. Maybe there's one thing that just comes back to you all the time, all the time, all the time. And you say, okay, what can I do to have victory over this? What can I choose? How can I choose to be a victor rather than a victim over this one thing that causes me to feel like I am not enough? That's the first step.
We have a question here about how do you think that educators can help students maintain hope during this time of distance learning? Is it enough to model a positive, hopeful attitude ourselves and hope that it will set an example for children to follow?
Well, here's the wonderful thing about human beings. From the time we're born, we are born with mirror neurons. And that's how babies start learning. That's how they start, you know, as they grow and they get to be 2 and 3 months old, they start mimicking you and doing what you do. Children are going to do what you do more than what you say. And so, first of all, if you want your message to be authentic, then your demeanor has to match your words. And so you approach them with joy. You tell them that you miss them. You share with them what's beautiful and special about them, and share with them what they're capable of, and tell them you believe in them. But you've got to believe in yourself too. But you've got to have that in your eyes, in your voice, in your countenance, and then just live that way before them in a way every time they see you or every time they hear you. And you know what? If you've been this way during your distance learning, and that's your tone of voice, let me tell you something. They're going to notice a difference when they're back at school and you don't have your sweet tone of voice. So be real with them. Be genuine, be joyful, and say, I will determine that when I see those children again, they're going to see a different person. I'm going to be more, instead of just being genuine and happy with them when I feel happy, I'm going to make the choice to understand I am shaping the lives of these children, and that what I do in their life either is a stumbling block or a stepping stone. And I think if you keep that purpose in front of you, that then it makes a big difference.
We have another question here. Besides leading by example, how can we more concretely or practically teach a victor versus victim or defeatist mentality in a child? Encouraging a mindset of perseverance, contentment, and humility in little ones is tricky. Any tips or resources, exercises?
Sure. I think it's how we treat them when they've made good and bad choices. Now, I mean, that's everything then. So, but when they've made a bad choice, how do we treat them? Do we shame them, or I mean, there's something that you need to do. They've hit someone, or they will not sit still and be quiet, or something is the issue. So what do we do? Do we find a time? Do we make sure that no one's hurt and then sit down? We spend time with the child who received the bad treatment, and we maybe have the other child just stand there and listen and say, I'm sorry this happened to you. And I think if Sam had thought about it, he might not have done this to you. And Sam, you are a sweet boy. You are so good in so many ways, and I think you made a bad choice right here. Is there something you would like to say? Give them the opportunity. Don't say that was terrible, you're awful, why would you be mean to your friend? Those are the things that go with us in life. So what do you want to go with Sam? What's the message you want to teach him? That he could have done it better, that he's sweet and he's good and you love him, but he made a bad choice and you believe he can be better. Would he like to do something about that? If he chooses not to, then he's not ready. But you stay with it. Later on, you say, Sam, I want to talk to you again. Say, remember this morning when you hit your friend, when you hit Becky with your block? And he may be in a totally different state now. Say, can you talk to me about what you were thinking about right then? And maybe it's too late. But what I'm saying is, instead of condemning, address it. This was a bad choice. You hurt your friend. Friend, are you okay? I want to make sure that you're all right, and don't spend so much time with him right now or her, and make sure that the victim's all right. And then talk to him as if he's smart and good and sweet. And what was he thinking to do something that's not like him? You know he can be better. So that's how we approach it, but it takes purpose from our standpoint. We have to be purposeful. We cannot just be operating in a daze and going through and saying, okay, I'm here, I'm gonna take care of these children. Yes, they've got to learn this, got to learn that. I got to make sure I stay on schedule. Okay, now we go to lunch. Okay, now we all make it purposeful. Make your communication with them encouraging, even when you're having to correct. And do correct, and correct in the right way. That's the only way that they learn. That's the only way they grow. That's the only way they have the confidence to say, you know what, I made a bad choice, but I know how to do better. And then the next time he does better, maybe the next morning you just make little notes to yourself. This is really what assessing children is. It's not this pen and paper and saying, okay, yep, they did that. It's assessing them, kind of watching them. And by noon the next day, Sam, I want to talk to you. I noticed this morning that you were so good playing with your friends, and you shared, and I saw you playing with Becky. Did y'all have a good time? So that you reinforce that he made good choices the next day. And listen, if you have to look for a couple of days for a good choice a child made, do it. Because I promise you, when you start recognizing that and not just saying good job, I appreciate the choice that you made. When you do that, you're going to start seeing a difference in those children. But you have to be purposeful. You're the adult. You have to live it, and you have to expect it of them and teach them how to do it.
I have a follow-up question here, maybe the last question before we transition here. Kind of a little bit further question on what you just talked about, Mecca. You spoke earlier about children or individuals, adults, anyone that takes the victim mindset of, that's somebody else did that to me, or that's somebody else's fault, and I'm the victim. How do you suggest individuals respond, if this is, again, children or adults, if they're seeing someone that's actually taking the opposite point of view and taking more responsibility upon themselves, so much that it becomes unhealthy, that they are accepting the blame, but to an unhealthy level? Like, it's always my fault, I always, and the exaggeration that can come on the complete opposite side of the spectrum.
Well, if that's happening in a child, that's really sad, because somebody has done some, just think about that. Our 3-year-olds, I'm thinking about a 3-year-old, they've only been in the world 36 months. So if they think everything is their fault, just think about some of the messaging that's been given to them and reinforced for the first 36 months in life. So I think you have to take it one situation at a time. This is not a one-time fix. Just like if somebody has a victim attitude, you don't fix it overnight. It takes, what do we say, perseverance. It takes being purposeful. You're going to have to do this on purpose, and you're going to have to do it regularly. And I just think it's so important that you remember that and just say, okay, I'm going to take this a step at a time. I have a child, or I have a friend who has so talked down to themselves and has been made to feel so small that they feel like everything is their fault. And the only thing you can do is to counteract it. And I guess if I had a situation, it would be a little bit easier. But if, like if a child, I can see a child saying, nobody's my friend. Nobody likes me. Nobody will play with me. And that's being a victim. So what would you say to that? Say, listen, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go over there to that center and start playing. You be a friend. You can't have a friend unless you are a friend. How can you be a friend? What's something you could do to be a friend? And then you want to take them to a situation where there's a sweet child that's not going to say, we're playing here. I mean, because they can be mean. But you know some children that won't do that. He needs or she needs to gain the confidence to step up and step out. And what we're doing as kind of helicopter parents and hovering dads and moms is not giving children the opportunity to step up and out and fixing some things for themselves. We're doing everything for them, and we're telling them they're wonderful and they're good and they're smart, and then they get into the classroom and somebody doesn't like them. Oh, nobody likes me. So that's probably mostly how you would see it in children, or they can't do something that everybody else can do. Maybe there's a skill set that everyone's learning and they're just not learning it, and they recognize that. And so you talk to them individually about their strengths. Do you know what you're really, really good at? I saw you building in the block center the other day, and I could not believe what you finished. So that's what you're really good at. And we can work at this, but you have so many things that you're very good at. All of us have to work at something. You know what I have to work at? And share on an authentic, teachable level. Be real with them.
I love that. Thanks for that, Mecca, and thanks for being on here. I think that's goes along very nicely with the beginning of Jill's presentation yesterday, where she read that quote from the toddler, talking about the expectations that parents or teachers have upon them, but the limits that we often put upon what they can do. And I also like how you pointed out, pointing out specific things that we see a child doing, or even an adult doing. I think the generalization of praise can be very weakening. And, oh, you're so good at so many things. Well, tell me, what am I good at? I don't want to hear that as an adult. I want you to tell me, what am I good at? Because if you can't say that, I know you're probably not paying attention and you might be faking it. And I think the kids know that. And
yes,
it's so powerful to call those out.
We think we're so smart. They know when we're being real or not. And they may not know, they may not instinctively be able to identify that's not real. She's not being authentic. But they do know something's wrong. They're not connected to you and it doesn't feel right. And you do not have the influence with them that you want to have. You've just got to be real and be vulnerable and be teachable. Stay teachable, and I promise you, you'll have hope.
Well, thanks so much, Mecca. I appreciate you being on. This is a wonderful, wonderful topic, and I so enjoyed your presentation. And yeah, I think from the comments that we have a lot of people that are feeling more hopeful after your presentation.
So are you saying I'm going to turn it for hope? Did I make it?
I think so.
Good. All right. Thank you guys so much. What a pleasure to be with all of you. Thanks.
Thank you, Mecca. So great to see you.
Thank you.
All right. So we've had some really, I mean, that was great. Everything that Mecca had to share and allowed us to reflect on. Just throughout the week, we've had some really meaningful conversations around hope and, how we bring this to the classroom, and, some great conversations about education in general, about music. And for our Friday afternoon, we are really going to switch gears here. We're going to have Jacqueline Lyons join us, and she's going to be talking about marketing and how how we can be helping, you know, our websites. And I thought it was really important to bring Jacqueline on to talk about this, because as educators or musicians, I don't think it's a course that we often take. You know, how can we market our website better? How can we reach more people with our, whether it's your school website or a personal website you have if you're a consultant, or you know, a hobby that you have that you want to share, or a blog. And I just think it's a great tool to have in any of those, you know, professions. And like I said, I've never had access to learning about it, and I want to take advantage of Jacqueline's knowledge in this space. So Jacqueline, you can go ahead and turn on, there you are, hi.
Awesome, hello.
I'm going to give you an introduction here. So Jacqueline
Great.
Lyons has been working in the world of SEO since 2015 for TripAdvisor, which is the world's largest travel platform, helping millions of travelers each month. When I'm not identifying top keywords, running competitor analyses, or updating meta descriptions, I can be found giving my 1-year-old golden doodle a belly rub, getting in a round of golf, or whipping up a new recipe in my 6x6 kitchen. Jacqueline's currently working full-time, but loves supporting small and new businesses to educate them on SEO best practices and provide services that allow them to be competitive in the organic search space. So yeah, Jacqueline, today, let me just scroll up here. We'll be yeah, do you have a small business? Do you run a website? Do you use the internet? Jacqueline will be explaining how Google works and what things you should focus on to optimize your website and give the user a great experience to drive traffic to your site. So I'm super excited to have Jacqueline here. She's a dear friend of mine, so I know she has a lot of great knowledge to share, and I will let you take it away.
Awesome, thank you for that intro. Let me just see if I can share my screen here. I believe can everyone see?
Yes, we can see.
You can, okay, great,
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah,
Okay, beautiful, so we'll dive right in. Okay, so yes, so thank you, Barbara, again for that nice introduction, and I will dive right in. So yes, we're gonna be talking about something called SEO. So already, some of you I'm sure are already thinking, am I on the wrong Zoom call? So I wanna just put it out there that you're definitely welcome to take a nap. I do hope that some of you maybe even have some takeaways that you can bring to your dinner table tonight. Hopefully for some, it may spark some new ideas, just get you thinking about new stuff. And then for any current or potential future website owners, hopefully there will be some nice takeaways for you today, just to better understand, you know, how to proceed and navigate you know, through the web. So just what we're going to cover today, we're going to meet me, although I think Barbara gave a good introduction, so maybe we can skip that slide. We're going to sort of talk about an SEO foundation. We're then going to cover SEO building blocks, different SEO elements. We'll wrap up with some takeaways, and then any questions, comments, concerns, and of course, praise, we will do at the end. So yes, meeting me, I think Barbara covered it. But yes, newly married as of December 2019, proud mother to a 1-year-old golden doodle. I love to cook, golf, and for sure watch Bravo. I do work full-time at TripAdvisor, and I have been working in the field of SEO for over 5 years now. So let's lay that SEO foundation. Now, apologies if I'm, you know, kind of starting way too basic, but just for the sake of level setting, we're going to start off with what is a search engine. So I'm sure many of you have heard of Google. That is the most popular search engine here in the US. Other search engines include Ask, Yahoo, AOL, Bing, so on and so forth. So basically, users search engines to find answers to what they're looking for. So whether that be a new pair of red boots, a movie theater near me, or even the best Montessori teacher training. And basically we count on those search engines to do the work for us, to basically serve up the best and most relevant result. But with that being said, the only way the search engine can do their job of populating the best results is if website owners are practicing good SEO. Now let's take a closer look here. So how exactly does a search engine work? So for example, we have a user with a gluten allergy, and they decide that they want chicken piccata for dinner. So they turn to Google, the search engine, for the recipe. They then type in chicken piccata recipe, and they review their results, which this is the results for that specific search. Then they realize, oh wait, I have a gluten allergy. Let me refine my search. So here we have their new search, which is gluten-free piccata. Now, as you can see, the results here completely different. So the top results are the pages that Google's algorithm has deemed to be the top results for each of these specific search phrases. And I do want to make mention that it's very possible and very likely that there could be a great delicious recipe that lives on page 6 of Google. But unfortunately, that specific recipe, while arguably maybe better than the Food Network's chicken piccata, because the SEO for the Food Network is stronger, they're populating and they're on page 1. I'm actually just gonna, I just wanna see, I wanna be able to field questions as well. While we go on here, let me see, okay, in the chat. Okay, just everyone saying hi, beautiful. Okay, and hopefully we can cover questions at the end. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about what is SEO. So SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization, and that's ultimately the free and organic section of the search results, which we'll cover a little more. And SEO is essentially the process of just making changes to your website's design, content, keywords, all that type of stuff, to give it the best chance at being served up by Google. Now let's take a look over here at my little pie chart down at the bottom. Now this is just an average. Now on average, we can see that this blue makes up about 50% of overall traffic. And again, just to reiterate, organic search is free. So on average, about 50%, and in some industries it varies, you have the potential to be gaining, free traffic, assuming you can apply a good SEO program. Now, looking over at this bar chart section, I want to hone in on business services specifically, but this is broken out by different industries. So in the business services industry, they're claiming that about 70% of their traffic to their website comes from that organic search, and very little comes in from social, very little through paid, and then there are other marketing channels, including email marketing and things like that. But again, point being, SEO drives a ton of traffic, arguably the most per marketing channel. And again, other than my salary and paying for a few tools annually, it's ultimately a free option. Let's take a look. So I made this video, apologies for it being a little bit grainy. But so here we have a user, myself, who typed in online Montessori assistant training, and this is what's served up from Google. Okay, so first they typed that in, and you can see here the first 3 placements. This is what we call the paid search. Then we have this result right here, the Montessori Live. That's actually our first organic search result. Then as we scroll down, we're gonna have another couple of ad placements here towards the bottom. And then it finishes up here with Google actually suggesting and recommending other search terms that may be more applicable than what you even typed in. So not sure if anyone was aware of that, but definitely as you're building out your site or choosing different keywords, it is really a great opportunity to even review what Google's suggesting or recommending you use for different search terms. Okay, so now why do we need SEO? Now, this is just one of many visuals I could have chosen, but I want to just talk about a couple of these. So credibility. Google really truly gives, I guess, praise or appreciation for websites that, have invested in their SEO and are serving up a great experience to the user. They're, their kind of what we call white hat techniques and tactics, you know, just playing it safe, being very clean, truly giving a good experience, and, you know, very optimized. So if you do a good job, Google will in turn sort of reward you. Targeted traffic. So let's use Open Door Montessori as an example. So Open Door Montessori obviously has identified their target market as, you know, whether it be parents, students, teachers, so on and so forth, but really with a focus on Montessori specifically. We don't want the Open Doors Montessori to try to compete with, we'll say, the Food Network and, you know, sprinkling in chicken piccata recipes all throughout their site, when that's not what what they're targeting between keywords and the targeted traffic. So really having a very well-defined focus area, you know, for your website, for your brand is very important. And the other thing I wanted to touch on was this long-term positioning. So what I mean by long-term positioning is if, we'll take Barbara for example, if Barbara puts together a beautiful, like robust, great quality piece of content, it's properly optimized and all those good things, over time, that will just continue to gain and grow and just build up this great authority, equity, all those good things that Google will know, hey, you know, this is great content. It's continued to grow over time. It's properly optimized. So again, just that long-term positioning of, you know, the Food Network, their chicken piccata recipe maybe was made, we'll call it in 2010, and now today in 2020, we're still seeing it because it's just over time continued to grow and strengthen. Okay, now we're going to shift over to SEO building blocks. Let me just take a quick peek at the chat. Okay, good. So some of you are revamping your site. Didn't even think SEO was important. I totally get that. Before I started doing it, I never heard of it. Okay, awesome. Yeah, so this is great. And hopefully, again, at the end of this, we can talk a little more about specific questions. So we'll continue on with now SEO building blocks. Okay, so I know in my little video that I shared, I know I said I would maybe cover a little more. This is that. So we have organic versus paid. So in this example, we have a user who typed in Montessori training online. Now, these first two placements here in the red, you can see are marked as ad. Now, so this is a different type of marketing, and this is the paid search that I referenced. So how this works is basically, so we have Montessori training, .net, and then Age of Montessori. So how this basically works is, we'll just say, for instance, it's kind of two ways. These two sites basically entered a bidding system, and they said, hey, Google, we will pay, you know, a certain amount of money for this keyword, so or phrase. So Montessori training online, they have said, hey, Google, on Friday, we are willing to spend $1, or Montessori training said, I'll spend $1. And Age of Montessori said, I'll spend 75 cents. Now, then, let's say there was a third one, we'll just say Open Doors. They said, hey, Google, we'll spend 50 cents. Now, what Google does, they don't just serve up whoever's going to pay the most. It's actually a combination of two things. It's who's willing to bid the highest paired with whose content truly is the most relevant. So while, yes, these are ads, they are still legitimate and, you know, worth clicking. So the way it works is if a user clicks this top ad, Google will charge Montessori training that $1 that they said they would bid. So it's called CPC, which stands for cost per click. So that's kind of how that works. And so again, that top section, that does require the bidding and the, you know, kind of paying for keywords. Again, you have to also have good content, so they are legitimate. And then where we SEOs come into play is down here in this green section. So the number of ads can vary. There can be none. There can, I think, be up to 3. But then you can see this first placement here, the MontessoriLive.org. This is the first organic search result. And what this basically means is that for Montessori training online, Google has deemed this specific website and this specific URL to be the most relevant. Okay, now a little bit on click-through rate. So I've always found this to be incredibly interesting. So results on the first page of Google, which is the top 10, receive 92% of all search traffic on Google. So basically what that says is if you're not on page 1, it's going to be really hard for you to get that organic traffic to your site, because the drop off between page 1 to page 2 is huge. And then we can see here, while I don't know if these percentages are accurate, I will say that positions 1 through 3 are far and away the highest likelihood of a user clicking through. And you can just see that gradually every position just has a drop off. So again, being on page 1 is huge, and obviously the higher the position, the better. Now let's talk a little bit about clean crawlable URLs. So we're going to start at the bottom here with this red one. So we can see here that it honestly looks like spam, nothing I would ever click on, between all the crazy characters and just really no actual words. Users just wouldn't have much trust in this URL. Now the next one, definitely shorter, a little bit better, but again, a lot of the funky characters just don't really give too much trust. Now, looking at the purple, again, we're getting better, still not great. Now we're getting into that better range. So oftentimes businesses will use different, coding or numbering. So they may identify certain things to be a certain number. So they'll say like Boston is number 146 or so on and so forth. So for them, for a website, this might be very clear, cat 61 / 174, great. But again, to the user, it doesn't, I don't know what I'm clicking on. I have no idea. Then next one up, okay, now we have British. So we have to assume 174 stands for British. And then we can see up at the top, this is the cleanest, most informative URL. So it's good for 2 reasons. One being that Google can easily scan this and say, okay, yep, makes sense. Like this is the British Airways flights from Seattle. And for a user as well, it's very clear what this URL means, represents. So me clicking on it, there is that level of confidence. So that's really important as you're building out your website. You want it to just be very clean, clear, and concise URL structures. Now let's talk about duplicate content. So we have an example here of 3 red toy trucks. Now, each of these red toy trucks, exact same truck. Now, you can see here that they actually are on completely different pages. So we have toys, trucks, red, toys, sale, red, and toys under 10, red. Now, if a user were to type in red toy truck, which of these pages is Google going to serve up? And the answer is we have no idea. And the problem with that is we're forcing Google to work harder than they want to. And you're sort of making it Google's choice of which page you want to serve up. So I think there's a lot of workarounds here, but it's just really important to know that you don't want to have the same, content spanning across your site. It's not safe. It's not a good user experience. You want to be very clear and direct to Google that if someone searches red toy truck, this is the page we want them to land on. So just something to be mindful again, as you're building out your sites and adding different content, you want to make sure that content lives on the appropriate page and that it's not all over your site. Okay, now let me just take a quick look at the chat again in between. Does that vary on, I've always asked myself in search engines. Okay, so does that vary on restaurants on what to search up? I've always just thought it was the ratings or is different food for different food stuff. So there's a number of, Regarding like the restaurants, it's a good question. So I actually, I specifically for TripAdvisor, I started in vacation rentals and then kind of shifted over to our attractions business, but I've worked pretty closely with restaurants. And it's really a number of factors. Reviews are huge. Obviously, you know, appropriate tagging and titling and labeling. You know, there's actually a number of different things and ways that Google populates certain things. We can definitely talk about that more, but great question. And Google does not give you a playbook. They basically say these are best practices, but in no way does Google say, hey, you know, open door, make sure you do this, 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 and this. It's really a game, and something that applies today may change next month. So while a lot of the SEO basics and best practices, you know, have been the same and likely will remain, that's very important. But as Google changes, they'll do algorithm updates, and as each update will require websites to respond differently. And again, we can talk about that more in a little bit. So now shifting over to SEO elements. Oops. Okay, so let's talk about keywords. So keywords. Now, we're gonna actually look at this chart right in the top right corner first. So this again goes back to my example of the Food Network's chicken piccata. So we can see here, so right here, these are 7 of 977 organic keywords that specific URL is populating for. Now we can see here that these 7 words are all in position 1. So if someone types in Giada chicken piccata, that URL is number 1. We can see over here, it's important to leverage search volume. So 165,000, this actually represents search on a monthly basis. So we can see here that chicken piccata over chicken piccata recipe is far and away, like way more highly searched. So again, obviously this is great for their specific website. And I wanted to kind of share an example. Let's look over at this chart here. So here is an example of potentially an opportunity. So for chicken piccata, like I said, they're position 1, incredible search volume. Now through this report, I identified that chicken breast calories also has a pretty good search volume. And what Giada and the Food Network could kind of think is, so right now they're ranking, they were in position 94, and we can see that they're actually slipping on that specific search phrase. So what they could do is they could say to themselves, you know, we really want to go after chicken breast calories. Let's incorporate those keywords into our site, specifically that page, just to further enhance it. So again, you don't want to just like throw chicken breast calories like all throughout with no actual, you know, clear, nice flowing content. But this is a silly example, but you know, maybe they say, wow, that's a lot of potential traffic. Let's try to capture it. So you know, again, depending on all of your different businesses, making sure that you're targeting or that you have a good grasp on your top keywords and that you're incorporating those onto your site as organically and, you know, smooth as possible is really important. And then just down here, I wanted to share this. So we can see that back in October of 2019, it looks like the page definitely, that specific URL had a lot of great keywords going to it. Then there was a little bit of a dip. So interesting, you know, I'd have to dive deeper, but interesting that they lost quite a number, particularly in that 51 to 100 keyword range. And again, that means position. So 51 to 100, meaning page 5 through and up. So we can see though that since November, there's definitely been like a pretty steady incline here, which is great. But I want to make mention that it's really the yellow and the lightest blue. That's really where you want to see the growth. This representing page 1. So if you look back at October, it definitely looks like the yellow was a little thicker than we are today, which basically means this particular URL has actually lost positions on specific keywords. So it could be a number of things. Is there more competition? Did we remove those keywords? Did we change anything to our page that we're now no longer ranking for those? So there's a lot of different ways that you can sort of correct that. But again, just really important to make mention that while it's great, we're gaining a lot of keywords and we have more today than we did last month. Again, we really want to make sure that we're moving those keywords, particularly the ones with the high search volume, up into that 1 to 10 range. Now, search intent. So I think this is very interesting that in 80% of search has an informational intent. So that's basically the what, the why, and the how. So people searching for different guides, how-tos, FAQs, stuff like that. So an example I thought would be how to incorporate Montessori in the home. So as a website owner, so Open Door Montessori, as an example, like you really want to think, okay, knowing that 80% of search is for informational purposes, how can we tailor our content and make sure that we are in fact answering those types of questions? Next is navigational intent. So this is more around the about, where you're located, what services you offer, and just general customer information. So if someone were to type in Montessori School in Cambridge, you'll want to make sure that all that information is available on your site and properly tagged and optimized so that you would appear in the search. Then lastly, we have the remaining 10%, which is more that transactional intent. So this is more about the people who know what they're looking for and are ready to convert or ready to watch or do or buy or whatever your site has, but more transactional. So in this example, I have someone searching for a Montessori positive guidance video. They very much know what they're looking for. It's not like, what is a positive guidance video, which is a completely different question. This is someone who's coming to your site or truly searching specifically for, in this case, a positive guidance video. Now to talk a little bit about title tags, meta descriptions, and what we call H1s. So let's start up in the top here. So this is 70 great things to do in New Hampshire. So that's what we call our title tag. And then next is the getaway from the everyday with a visit to New Hampshire campground, etc. And that's what we call our meta description. Now I want to just call out, this is a great opportunity for ultimately free advertising. So let's say, for instance, the Fiddle Fox will take, let's say they have, they're running a special. So they could have here, Fiddle Fox, what is it, springtime special or something like that. And that's an opportunity where you can change that as soon as the special's over. You can swap it out, change it. You can keep this to say whatever. But if someone were to type in Fiddle Fox specials or music specials for children, Fiddle Fox now has a great chance of populating in the search. Again, same here. You want another great opportunity to kind of load in those nice keywords, to have a more potential of ranking. Now let's look at Fiddle Fox. So each of these are 3 different pages. So we have the home page, we have the about page, and the contact page. And you can see here that Fiddle Fox has done a good job of just tagging their, titling each page as such. So Google would know if someone said Fiddle Fox about, this is the page they would serve up. Fiddle Fox contact, this is the page they would serve up, which is great. And then again, same different meta descriptions per page is important. And then just over here is a little example. So a concierge service. So this is their website, and it's theconciergetable.com/services. And what they've done is they have, in their code, they have tagged services as their H1. So that sends the signal to Google to say, this page, this URL is our services page. So again, it's important for Google to have that relationship and to know, you know, those little indicators obviously matter. And just to kind of pull that all together. So making sure your titles are and meta descriptions are both unique and interesting, very important. Ideally greater than 30 characters. The longer the title, the better. In a lot of cases, having them just short and, you know, not very informative is not great. Making sure that it's relevant to the content on the page. And then also, again, just the headers on the page representing what that page truly offers. Next, we're going to talk about content. So I feel like I hear the phrase content is king on a daily basis at work, and truly that stands true in the world of Google today. So one example that I've just found to be so interesting is, so an example here is thecrazytourist.com. Now, when they originally made this specific page, this URL, it was the top 25 things to do in Chicago. Now it is 50 best things to do in Chicago. So kind of two takeaways here. One being they have essentially doubled their content. So they're really beefing up this specific URL. So if someone's searching for things to do in Chicago, they now have double the potential, we'll call it, by having doubled their content. So I think that's so interesting. And another call out here is, while the URL says top 25 and we're now looking at 50, the top 25, this URL here, going back to what we talked about originally about like why we want SEO and about that like long-term positioning. So this URL, the Crazy Tourist top 25, that has been in existence and gaining that nice equity. I don't know for how long, we'll call it years. So rather than starting fresh and creating a whole new page and calling it top 50 things to do in Chicago, basically the Crazy Tourist is just beefing up this existing URL, because in the eyes of Google, this page already has a great reputation, great content, great authority. So really the Crazy Tourist has decided, let's really crank this up. And I do just want to make mention that this is more of like a blog style type site, if no one's familiar. And it actually is outranking TripAdvisor in a lot of instances. And it's largely due in part to the volume of rich, good quality content that they have over us. So back in the day, a lot of website owners would just like, you know, load in crazy keyword stuff, just basically meaning they'd say Montessori teacher training, and you should join our Montessori teacher training and come to our Montessori teacher training. And it was just not a good user experience, but they probably populated just because they were so keyword heavy. But now it's just really important. Google got a lot smarter, and they really are requiring that we create good quality content to provide good solid value to our audience. Now I just want to touch on something called link building. So this is something that I actually used to do early on in my SEO career. And what it is exactly is, so in this example, so the Winnetou Oceanside Resort, they newly, as of 2020, are now a pet-friendly accommodation. So this is a brand new page for Winnetou. So what that means is, for Google, it really has no reputation. So what we want to do is we really want to like kind of give it a little boost. So what we do is we created a link building campaign. So we identify local media, potentially bloggers, other local businesses where it's relevant to potentially share this news. And it's almost like a PR pitch. So what we did is we contacted mvol.com, which is Martha's Vineyard Online, and we saw that they had this great this great page on their site where they list any dog or pet friendly accommodations. So basically the outreach consists of just saying, oh, hi, you know, we think that this might be of interest to you. We feel your audience would, you know, love to know that we're now pet friendly. Please feel free to share this on your site. So what this does is this URL, right, this link, the Winnetou Oceanside Resort, links directly back to our pet-friendly accommodations page. So that essentially signals to Google, giving it that credibility and kind of giving it that boost. So Google kind of says, oh, wow, mvol.com is sort of giving it a stamp of approval. So it just helps for Winnetou to really boost up. So that's that. And now time for takeaways. So I will just go through these next few slides and then let's definitely take a look at any questions. So this is a very, very, very basic example, but I think that maybe it's a good way to pull this all together. So we have our users, they own a computer, and they use the search engine Google. Now they type in coffee shop near me drive-through, and believe it or not, when it comes to grammar in Google, all bets are off. So truly people type this in. Then we have these two potential results. We have the Dunkin' result where under the features section, they list a few different things, one of them being drive-through. Then we have the Starbucks result, and under amenities, they actually don't have any store features available. So whether they do or don't have a drive-through, because it's not listed here, in this particular search result, Dunkin' has the best shot because it's the most relevant result. Because they offer a drive-through, because that's what the user's searching for, Dunkin' would be served up. So again, the takeaway here is making sure that two things. So knowing that users are searching for, you know, drive-through specifically, making sure that you have that listed on your page is really important. And, you know, making sure that you're wording things similarly to have the best shot. So SEO checklist. So I thought that these are 4 different little visuals, and I thought it was kind of funny because they're all very different. So website on page checklist from 2018, very different from the 2017 checklist because things do change. Then you have the 5-minute checklist and even a 51-point checklist. So again, just to show that it's not always a one-size-fits-all, you know, operation, but and things do change. But again, there are those SEO basics that we've sort of touched on today that I think are just so important. And really the 3 big areas that if you are a website owner today that I really can't stress enough that these be your focus areas. I'll share these right now. But again, there are so many other elements, but this is kind of the best, cleanest way to move forward and be successful. So the first being keywords. Again, identifying your top keywords for your business and making sure that it truly aligns with what users are searching for. So let's say Fiddlefox has like a fun, you know, I'm totally making this up, but if they have a fun music program and they call it like, you know, music with Mimi, it's like, well, nobody knows if someone were to type in, you know, morning music time, nobody knows music with Mimi is morning music time. So being mindful of making sure that you're truly calling things what users are searching for and not your fun little names. Certainly include those fun little names, but to Google, make sure you're tagging what the user actually looks for. Then content. So making sure that you're incorporating these keywords into your website in short, clear, and concise ways. It's definitely not about adding 67 paragraphs stuffed with keywords. It's more about answering the user's question and truly giving a great experience. And then last was the titles, descriptions, and headings. Really make sure that you have appropriate titles, good solid descriptions, and that you're tagging your headers are a true representation of what the page is. And then this is my last slide. So SEO timeline. So while SEO is not a set it and forget it process, once you've invested the time and effort into laying that solid foundation, applying those SEO basics and optimizing your SEO elements, you for sure will be competitive in your space and truly be giving your website the best chance to see solid growth over time. So this example, this again is just a Google image, but you can see here that they essentially started their SEO efforts in April of 2014. And just, you can very much see over time, you know, that nice up and to the right growth, just gaining more and more traffic. And again, that's due to where they started with SEO and then, you know, just again, seeing it grow and, you know, reaping the benefits over time. So that's that. So I guess I'll stop. We can shift to questions. I'll stop sharing my screen. Let me take a peek at these questions, see if there's anything I can touch on. Okay, restaurants. I think people really do bring the website because it's not. Awesome. Yeah, no, okay, great. So just a lot of good feedback. And I completely agree. It's really crazy and kind of wild / scary how Google can truly make or break your business in a lot of ways. But overall, like I can't stress enough that there are a lot of very basic and easy ways for you to kind of optimize your site quickly, easily, and free. You know, so it's definitely, it's a great resource and a great way to be successful. So any other questions?
I think there was one, let me see, let me scroll up real quick, Jacqueline, about a website, starting a website. Someone said they were revamping their website, so this was helpful. Where was the other question I thought I saw? I think it was from Nancy. Nancy was asking, can I open my own website in Spanish?
I don't see why not. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, so and I do want to actually, well, maybe I'm not answering Nancy's question. I want to make mention too, so TripAdvisor, we have our .com site, which is, you know, for here in the US. Then we have UK, Australia, France, Germany, all those things. And I actually, for a period of time, was responsible for actually writing the titles and the meta descriptions. So that was my job. But I actually wrote them in French and German. And I think what was such a crazy takeaway was the fact that something that was super successful on our .com, you know, a title that, you know, really was appealing to that audience or that market, for the same exact page in German, that title translated maybe didn't appeal at all. So I think like it's so interesting to really just know who you're targeting, what attracts, you know, them or appeals to them, and applying it, you know, whether it be on a Spanish site, French, you know, so on and so forth. But just really being mindful that, again, it's not just because it worked on one page or for one site that it doesn't apply. It doesn't just translate truly to all different, you know, demographics and stuff. So definitely learned that one the hard way.
I was thinking, and this, because I know like really nothing about websites or, you know, how, you know, searches are generated and all that, but I was thinking a lot about we've been on some webinars with teachers and that they are home now and they're starting these new hobbies, or if a teacher wanted to start a blog, like, so this what you shared with us today could be relevant to a blog as well, right? Because that's essentially
yes. Yeah, no, absolutely. So, yes. So even like, for instance, when I was talking about the link building, so for example, it's incredible, like some bloggers, like, you know, they travel for free, they do so many things for free because they then blog about it and that's how they get paid. But so for our link building efforts, we would oftentimes target like the bloggers who have like the best, you know, the eyes of Google. Like Google has deemed them to be sort of experts in that field, or their content is just so rich and great. So we would almost lean on them to say, hey, you know, could we feature you, or, you know, or we've featured you, you know, share this stuff. So absolutely having a blog and optimizing your blog, absolutely, like blogs will, you know, can feel like, but often like the Crazy Tourist is more of a blog. They don't actually offer any services. So Crazy Tourist is now outranking in some instances TripAdvisor because they are just so well optimized and have this incredible content. So yes, absolutely, for sure, blogs. Blogs can be, SEO applies to blogs as well. And I do just want to add to that, one thing that I didn't cover in this presentation, but it's really important that, so how it works is you have what we call a domain. So for your instance, opendoormontessori.com or whatever it is. If you want to make a blog, you want to have that blog living within the domain. So I think oftentimes people have made the mistake of adding a blog and like linking over to it, but any content that lives on a blog, so we'll just say opendoormontessori.com, and then we have opendoorblog.com. So that's two different, what we call domains. You really want it all to live on the same, because any credit or like, you know, equity or authority that any of your pages gain, it all flows back to your domain. So Google will give a domain a score. So Google will say Open Doors Montessori gets a score of 60, and then your Open Door Montessori about page maybe has a score of 40. But if you really beef up your about page, your domain score is probably going to go up, because Google's saying, wow, like these pages are informative or have great content or all those good things. But if you're putting effort on a blog that lives outside of your opendoor.com page, you're not going to get that credit. So just as people are thinking about blogs and how to tie it to the website, make sure that it's always linked.
Jacqueline, this is Chris. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
For those individuals that maybe they have Instagram or Facebook pages and are interested to start their own blog, what advice would you give to them about connecting it to a new website, or just some things they can do to start having their own site and basic search engine optimization tools that they can use? Obviously, this is a very big arena, but what's some things that individuals can do really to get started?
No, that's a great question. And so I actually, through Barbara, met a friend of hers who has this new concierge business. And so I forget what platform she's using. I can't remember. I'm pretty familiar with Wix, which is a website building platform. She's using something different, but I think she had created a website, and then also has like the social channels of Instagram and so on and so forth. But yeah, I mean, honestly, it's really it's very simple in a lot of ways, but I think when you're starting out, again, going back to like, who's my target audience, and really making sure that you're laying the groundwork from the start. Laying the groundwork well is very important, because you don't want to get into a situation where it's like, well, where should this live? Where, if I'm writing something or if I'm doing a video, which page do I put that on? You want to sort of in your head kind of map out how you foresee your site, growing it to the best of your ability. So that's why, a lot of websites up at the top, we'll take Crate and Barrel, for instance, they have it where it's like outdoor furniture, tableware, and bedding. They're very like, so anything pertaining to bedding is here. Anything pertaining to this is here. So I think to the best of your ability from the start, thinking, okay, what are my areas that we're going to be covering, and making sure that everything appropriately ties, so that for Google, it's very clear. For the user, it's very clear. And just the site has a nice flow. So there are a ton of different, I think WordPress might be one. Well, I know WordPress is one. Maybe that's the one she uses. But through those tools, a lot of them have, it's very basic steps. Like you'll see now many of you may notice that there's an SEO button where you can truly adjust your title tag, your description, and that's how that all kind of comes together. So making sure, like I said, that each page is properly titled, described, tagged, all those good things, is really the best way to go about it.
Well, thanks for that. I know Squarespace is another one that I've used.
That's the one. Yep, that's the one.
Okay. And could you talk a little bit, I know this might go down the rabbit hole too far for some, but can you talk about widgets like, or plugins, sorry, like Yoast or All-in-One SEO, which do exactly what you're talking about to make it a little bit easier for folks to be able to program those title tags and descriptions?
So I'm not super familiar with Yoast. Is that like an SEO like tool?
Yeah, that's one of many.
Okay, so I'm not super familiar. So I've started in SEO at TripAdvisor, and we essentially have our own, tools and programs and, I guess ways we go about things. But I do know, that there are a lot of different, I guess probably programs like a Yoast that I'm not personally familiar with. But I think for sure, I know when I gave that example of what Google offers at the bottom, so if someone were to type in Montessori teacher training, seeing at the very bottom, what other searches could include, I think that's like a free, easy way to kind of see, okay, like what words should I be using, or what are good keywords? So as you're trying to figure out what should my page be called, exploring your competitors and seeing, okay, what are they using for a title tag, or what is Google, kind of calling different pages, or what are they giving more authority to, I think is a good approach. And I don't think I'm answering your question, but I'm not overly familiar with that tool. I do know that there are a lot of, free tools, or, keyword generators, or different things that you can sort of find through Google, just exploring different things. But yeah, that helps.
Great, thanks, Jackie.
Yeah, of course.
Trying to see over here. So yeah, I was, I was thinking again in terms of the session and why I had originally, thought of you when, in this space, because, we have all these teachers at home with so many strengths, and, some teachers on the side, like I said, either have hobbies or doing consulting work, and I think it's really nice to kind of know where to start if you do want to take that next step, or if you're a school owner and, you are currently running a website, just to have this foundation is super helpful, because like I said, in the space of education, we don't really talk about this. And it's just, I think, nice to have. And then I was laughing to say, a lot of the presenters are bringing hope into the classroom, and it's like, well, Jacqueline's going to bring hope to your website. And
no, it's true. And one thing I meant to mention this too, like really, unless your business is able to rely on like word of mouth, really having a presence online is huge. And making sure that the information is up to date and accurate. And I will say too, I know I referenced that it's not a set it and forget it process, and it really isn't, because Google, we've even found that while we may have a title tag that's super successful or everyone's clicking on it, if it gets stale, or if we're not like taking the time to revamp it or switch things up, Google does take note of that. They don't want website owners to get lazy or just, oh yeah, like it's fine, it's good, it's, we're getting traffic. But it doesn't, I think initial efforts and the work at the beginning is really important. And if you do a good job of laying that solid foundation, you will see that like nice steady growth. And I will say too, again, referring to the concierge table website owner, she had actually, before she and I had met, she, I guess, was contacted all the time from different people wanting to do SEO. And it's a crazy thing because it can be done, you know, it can be done well, and it can also be done in a what we call black hat way, and they can, you know, they can get you to rank, but really they're putting your website at risk, because Google definitely frowns upon any sort of sneaky tactics, or, you know, a quick win, you know, that's not done properly is going to really hurt you in the long run. We actually, I will say, so Flipkey is it's similar to Airbnb, although nobody knows about it. But so it's a subsidiary of TripAdvisor. And basically what happened is TripAdvisor had purchased a few different vacation rentals websites. We all shared our content. So everyone had the same log cabin, same description, same everything. And eventually Google caught on to that. And basically they had a huge problem with it, understandably, because what was happening is if someone typed in log cabin, New Hampshire, the top 3 results could potentially be TripAdvisor companies. Well, that's not fair. That's not giving a good user experience. So we actually got what we call a Google penalty, and it really was really bad. And not that anyone needs to worry about that degree of penalties, but my point being that Google has rules. While they don't share their rules, they do share, you know, best practices. And it's just really important to play it safe and, you know, just make sure that if you are doing SEO on your own, or if you are relying on someone, that there is definitely, you know, you're doing it right, and that there is a level of trust as well. So.
That's great. Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for letting me share. I've been tuning in this week, and really even a lot of takeaways for me. So thank you for letting me join, and feel free, if anyone has any follow-up questions, feel free to get my contact information from Barbara or Chris, and happy to chat more.
Great. Thank you, Jacqueline.
Thanks.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much, Jacqueline. That was great. I absolutely agree, Barb. I think that's so valuable, and especially now when we're home and exploring hobbies, or is you know, we were talking about yesterday, even learning new things and experimenting. I love building websites, and I've used WordPress and Squarespace. I haven't actually used it, and yeah, building that SEO is really, really important to having traffic, so that you can be recognized on there. And if you're doing something as a blog, everyone wants to get exposure and get people reading content that seems to do. So I really appreciate Jacqueline talking about something a little bit different than what we've been talking about every day. So I think it's equally valuable, and I hope everyone on the call found value in that as well. So thank you, Jacqueline. Thanks, Mecca, for being on the call earlier. And we're looking forward to a great week next week. So
big week.
A special extra Spanish session every day at 1 o'clock. So our schedule will be English speakers at 12 and 1, and then there will be a additional Spanish speaker at 1 o'clock as well. So that'll be on the opendoormontessori.com conference, and you'll be able to see where the Spanish session will be. It'll also stream on the site there too. And as we come back on Monday, we'll have some great speakers. We have Shirley, who is going to be speaking about rye, and then we have Marlise, I'm saying her name correctly, I hope, who's going to be presenting as well. And also speaking on Monday about learning music alongside your kids. We've got Derek Kaongo on Tuesday, along with Annie Briner, who many of you have seen in our Open Door Montessori videos. So excited for Annie. She's always extremely animated and has a great talk for us, and many others for the rest of the week. Letty Rising, Rafa Roman, Thanks for being with us this week. I hope this was of value and you enjoyed the content. See you next week. Have a great weekend. Have a great night. And adios.
Bye.